author of CX Punk. Described as an experimental CX thought leader and visionary, Adrian is a best-selling author. He's a Forbes contributor, speaker, investor, advisor, and CX Punk. He has helped develop and grow customer-focused large and small businesses for over 25 years now. He published a best-selling book in 2016 called How to Wow, 68 Effortless Ways to Make Every Customer Experience Amazing. He published an exciting new book in 2019, Punk CX, and is working now on a follow-up due out in late 2021. Absolutely excited about this, and over to you, Adrian. Enjoy the panel discussion, and everyone stay tuned.
Thank you, Aziza. Thank you for the introduction. Andrea, David, kind of like welcome to the panel. Thank you so much to everybody at Martech Vibe and the CX NXT sort of team for inviting us along to talk about two very important things: experience and loyalty, and about how that kind of means. Today, I want to, apart from they've had some incredible kind of introductions by Aziza, but I actually would like them to introduce themselves so you hear it from the horse's mouth, as it were. So, Andrea, can you introduce yourself now? I should say to you, Andrea's out and about. She's combining a digital and a live event simultaneously, which is kind of cool. So she's on a slightly kind of like a low bandwidth sort of thing. She looks amazing, even on low bandwidth. But if you want to really see how amazing she is in kind of real time, you should check out her kind of like LinkedIn profile, because she is like super cool and super beautiful in HD as well as in low definition. But Andrea, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about what you do and kind of like what you focus on and what's important to you. Just give everybody that's listening in a flavor of Andrea Prazakova.
Hi, Adrian. I'm happy that my picture is actually blurry because you make me blush. So, nobody can actually see the color of my skin right now. But thank you for the amazing introduction. My name is Andrea Prazakova. I guess from the, OVA in the end, you make a really great guess that I'm coming from Eastern Europe. I'm Czech by origin. I have the background in retail banking for more than 25 years. And now, so almost 7 years with MasterCard. I think what I'm really passionate about is exactly what I'm doing. I'm heading MasterCard Foundry for EMEA for MasterCard, and we're looking after innovation, customer experience, user experience, insight, and all the cool stuff. What the everybody in the organization wants to get their hands on. I think some of the priorities which I'm really focused on is how to make sure that.
Oops, it looks like we might have lost Andrea kind of like there. Anyway, so before she kind of comes back, I'm going to switch to kind of a gentleman who, even though we were talking backstage and he was telling me that Andrea was that where kind of men and women now, there's women kind of have all the beauty and men get all the ugly. But I know from this kind of gentleman that he's a beautiful man, both on the outside as well as the inside. But David, tell us a little bit about kind of like you and kind of like what do you do and kind of what's important kind of to you? What do you focus on?
Sure. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the sponsors for this event. So yeah, my name is David Boucher. I'm an American by background and passport holder. I've traveled widely throughout the world. I've been in healthcare. I've been blessed. For 43 years now, I've been working in healthcare. And I've always been just enamored with commerce, how people make money, how people spend money. And by way of background, again, I've been in health IT. I was a hospital CEO in the United States for a number of years, various hospitals. But I've really been on the stump and on the forefront, really, in consumerism in healthcare. First in the U.S., the last couple of years in Thailand, and now living here in Dubai. So I work at the corporate level as Chief of Service Excellence for Aster DM Healthcare. We're a 35-year-old company. We actually have 27 hospitals now across 7 countries. Half in the Middle East, the other half are in India. We've got approximately 277, 280 pharmacies, about 100 clinics, physician clinics in those countries as well. So about 21,000 total employees. And last year, even during COVID, we treated close to 20 million patients. So I've been with the company now for just a year. And as the introducer shared, just basically at the corporate level, responsible for really leading our journey into service excellence and the whole customer experience. So thanks for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And Andrea, welcome back. We lost you there for a second, but it's great to see you can back. What we're going to do is, so this panel is all about experiences and loyalty. And I mean, it's obvious to say that over the last sort of 18, 20 months or so, we've gone through some pretty radical kind of changes and also kind of pretty major kind of challenges. And I think we've seen this major kind of shift to digital as we've had to respond to the kind of pandemic and things. But you come at it both from very, very different perspectives. Healthcare, David, and financial services, Andrea. And I'm curious to think about, when I say experience and loyalty, what does that mean to yourselves, and kind of how do you think, how does your CX strategy, when you think about your CX strategy, where does loyalty play in that and the experience you kind of deliver? And Andrea, can I come to you kind of first, because almost you feel like Mastercard feels like it's all very much at a distance, right? It's almost like it's quite a remote sort of relationship, where David feels like kind of quite up close. But I might be wrong about that. Sort of correct me or educate me, Andrea, about kind of how you approach it at Mastercard.
No, you are actually. I hope that you will not lose me again. If you do, I'm counting on David to cover the Mastercard piece as well. So no, you're very right. I think that we are B2B business, and however, our products are used by end consumers, and loyalty is such a misused world. And in the past, before the pandemic, I would say that loyalty often was outsourced to somebody else, somebody who would provide some points, some miles, some discounts and benefits. And during the massive digitalization or increase in digitalization in COVID, we realized that the loyalty, it's not anymore points and discounts and miles. It's how do you catch the customer in the right point in time through different channels and give them something which is relevant. That's on the consumer side. And the same is for the partners. How can you bring things to your partners which will make them stay with you and loyal with you? So in the past, you would give them a piece of technology. It's not sufficient anymore. How can you provide them with things like UI, UX designs and standards, research which you do with your customers, things which you can, which add value to their business. So definitely for us, it's very challenging because we deal into B2B and B2B2C while we're not actually directly engaging with the C customers.
No, that's great. It's fascinating. I mean, David, so I can see that's kind of there's like a whole chain of things happening there with Andrea. But for yourself in healthcare, I mean, what does loyalty kind of mean to you? Because that's a very different sort of thing, and sometimes quite complex, I guess, as well. Because if you're dealing with different people in different conditions, and whether it's kind of short term or longer term sort of like stuff, or whether somebody's incapacitated or not, and it involves kind of family and sometimes traumatic things. So it's like I'd be interested to hear your take on like how healthcare approaches experience and loyalty.
Sure, great question. And Andrea, thanks for your comments. I think if we look at it across the globe, healthcare and hospitals are late to the game. What Andrea and the financial services have known for years, I think we're really in the nascent stage in healthcare. And I think, it's only been in the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years maybe, that most hospitals and large organizations consider things like expectation management, net promoter scores, we've really taken Google ratings very seriously. And so I think that's increasing. As you note, Adrian, it's a complex business. I know healthcare. I don't know the credit card, the financial services as well, but it is a complex business. And interestingly enough, we're B2C, obviously, because we're treating patients. It's not all in person because telemedicine, certainly with the advent of the pandemic, I mean, we see truly every single day hundreds and hundreds of patients through telemedicine visits, audio, video, in a secure socket and everything else. But it's also B2B. We contract with a number of large corporations, not only here in the Middle East, but throughout India as well. So they will send their employees to us for things like, drug testing or employee physicals, or if they get hurt on the job, things of that nature and stuff. So, it's really complex, but loyalty is everything. It's everything in our business, and we have to up our game. And so, I think it's really important. And we share the same metrics, right? It costs less to keep a customer than it does to create a new one. And so I think healthcare organizations, certainly Aster DM, clearly understands that. And we're trying to do a better job at increasing our retention rates and increasing our net promoter scores and things.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing a piece of research a few years ago that I thought was brilliant, because it showed that 90% or over 90% of all loyalty is driven by what happens around two stages of the customer's kind of like journey. And one is around what it's like around the buying experience, or how do you experience a service, and then also what happens around when something goes wrong, and how do you respond. And I think that makes sense when you kind of like when you think about it from a psychological perspective. It's like when we want to kind of buy something or use something, we want to make sure that it goes smoothly, it's risk-free, we want to feel good about our purchasing decision or our buying decision, right? And then when something goes wrong, we want somebody to come and save us, right? So it's like this very human sort of things, and apparently the research showed that like 90% of all loyalty can be explained by getting those things kind of right in getting it right in those situations, and then the other 10% you contribute to other sort of factors like possibly programs and so on and so forth. I mean, so within that, I mean, what are the biggest drivers of loyalty? I mean, Andrea, you talked about relevance and things. I mean, is it a relevance across the kind of the piece, or is it, I mean, what is it kind of, and because you've got multiple kind of layers, you both got multiple layers, both B2B relationships, but also B2C, if you like, relationships. So what are the key drivers that you focus on?
Yeah.
Andrea, what do you think?
Before I go into the drivers, I just want to enhance what you said on the research. And I think that's a really critical point to mention. And that's all the negative scenarios. And I think today it's so easy to launch a new application and to, try to wow customer with the nice, beautiful user experience. Mm-hmm. But the key to loyalty is, how do you deal with negative scenarios? How, if you cannot do the appointment on the app, do you have to go to a call center? Do you go to a website? How, if something doesn't work in the application or your product wasn't delivered? And I think that's where it's so also easy to switch today between brands because of the digital experiences. And I think that's something which it's very important when you design a really good experience and you want the customers to be loyal, to give them great experiences in the negative scenarios, to see that you have the bases covered. And I think that's really critical. In terms of the key drivers for us from relevance, we just finished the research in 12 countries, and the key things which the consumers were telling us is, guys, don't tell me things and don't show me things which are not relevant to me. You have all my data, where I go, where I buy, what is my family doing, why are you sending me offers which you see that I would never ever use. So that's a key message from the consumers. Say, guys, don't think that you throw something out and hope that it will stick. I think that time is definitely over. So for us, it's really important to say, okay, how do we make sure that through our partners, the offers and the benefits and the loyalty programs are made for David or for Adrian, or for Andrea, and that what you see is something which would add value to you as a consumer. And from a partner perspective, if our partner is a bank or a retailer or a telco, they are very different three personas. So we will need to treat them in a different way, the way how we onboard them and how we, give them access to our assets, because their needs are different. So it's really the relevance. I think it's super key. So I think that the two drivers are important: is the relevance of what you offer, that it adds value to you, and the second is, are we only showing and planning for happy path, or did we cover the base? So if something happens, that we got you covered and you don't feel that we let you down. We only promised something nice, and if something goes wrong, we let you go. I think that's the really two important pieces from a great loyalty and a strategy perspective.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Andrea. I mean, David, I mean, so I think that's brilliant. So the we got you, the basic, cover the basics, sort of we've kind of the foundational sort of side of things, but then also being the relevant. So it's almost, it feels like being like a good friend, right? It's like, I'm there when you need me, but I'm also interested in you enough to actually talk to you about kind of like stuff that's kind of you're interested in and is relevant to you. So I think it's a really great kind of like point. But David, what are the drivers for you in terms of that kind of experience a lot? What are you focusing on?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So, I think it's important to be reminded. I remind myself all the time that most consumers they really don't want what I'm selling, right? Most people, if you think about this, don't want to go to the hospital. Many times, unless we're really, really committed to wellness and preventive health, we really don't want to go to the doctor unless we're doing something with aesthetics or wellness or, lifelong. But so I think that's important for us. And again, I think it's important for us. So empathy is the number one driver, specifically to answer your question, whether it's on-site or website. I always say on-site or website, we'll treat you right. Our corporate motto is we'll treat you well, but it's that we have to display empathy. And it's all the things that go with that, right? The eye contact, the smiles, even through the mask, being able to touch, even if it's metaphorically, recognizing the cultural differences in the Middle East are a little bit different and stuff. But I continue. I think one of the main drivers is a reminder that we today live in an Insta culture, right? I didn't grow up with my thumbs, but today the consumer worldwide, they push a button, they expect Netflix. They push a button, Amazon drops something. They push a button, Grab or Uber drops off a Starbucks at their office, home, or wherever. And so we know that I continue. We have to get faster. One of the other drivers is speed. Right. And I continue to remind our staff that it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. And so patients today don't want to wait. When they go online and push a button, like with Netflix, and they're doing a telemedicine visit, they want to see the doctor right then, or at a time that's convenient for them if they're scheduling it for themselves or somebody else. So that whole, sense of urgency, combining that with empathy, the sense of urgency, the attention to detail, and we need to register patients faster. We need to see patients faster. But with a doc one-on-one, customers expect to have FaceTime. They don't want a doctor with their head in the keyboard keying the whole time. They want people assessing and so that's the key. It makes the challenge a little bit different as opposed to paying your money and going to a 5-star hotel.
Yeah, no, but I think the thing I think I'd zone in on there is that you talked about empathy, kind of that sort of speed or sense of urgency and the attention to detail. I mean, despite we've got this massive switch to digital and people growing up with the thumbs, as it were, it feels like to me the things that matter, the things that really bubble up it's the human stuff, right? It's the kind of it's the things that drive the connection, lest we forget that. And sometimes when people talk about it's all digital and it all has to be seamless and connected and super fast and super easy and all these different things, that's fine. But if it's just the same as everybody else and doesn't have that empathy and that connection and that relevance, then it's just bland, right? And I think that's the thing. It's almost the difference. You can get to that high level, but then you now have to take it up a level by adding a bit of empathy or a bit of relevance and putting that effort in to make it sort of like special, because it's always the 1% that makes the difference, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we've only got a couple of, the time has flown. We've only got a couple of minutes. But so here's the thing. Let me kind of switch it around and come to yourself first, David. If I was to say to you, you've got tremendous experience in your industry. We're talking about, experience and loyalty and building that connection with your customers. If you were to look down the camera and give one piece of advice to kind of their audience about trying to build that better connection, build a better experience, a better loyalty, what would it be?
Listen. Truly, listen to your customers, listen to your employees. You can really, that's your marketing plan. If you listen to your customers, they will tell you what they're buying, what they want that you're not selling. And so I think that's critically important.
That's awesome. And can I just add, listen with no expectation that you have to answer. Just listen to absorb, kind of everybody. And then finally, kind of Andrea, let's come to you just for the final kind of words. That kind of down the camera, do this one thing, kind of, yeah, and it'll lead you down the good path. What would it be?
Sorry, I didn't. What did you say?
So, if I was asked you to give our audience one piece of advice that's going to drive better experience, better loyalty, better connection, more relevance, what would it be?
I want to build on what David said. I think try to put yourself into the customer seat as much as possible. And secondly, if you have 500 employees in your company, they are all consumers. So the first people who you put into the seats are your employees, and they need to listen to themselves and listen to them. We often forget that we have this massive amount of consumers on our hands and going outside to listen and understand. But we always have these colleagues and their families in our own companies, which are full of insights and information, and putting ourselves into their shoes and sitting in the chairs is making the right strategic decisions and enriching every solutions which come out of a shop.
Well said, well played. David, Andrea, they're going to kick us off now. We could have been here for ages, but thank you so much for sharing your time and your insight with us today. And now I'm going to pass it over to Aziza.
Thank you so much, Adrian, Andrea, and David. I wish you stayed for much longer because it was such a mind-blowing session and so many insights. And as you all said, it's all about customers, listening to our customers, and also using the data when it comes to tailoring our products and services. So really, thank you so much for this session.